Every Monday now, I come and I say, the president had his most paranoid, untethered, mentally disconnected weekend yet.
I've watched some of the people that host. Jimmy Kimmel was horrible. And some of these people, if I can't beat out Jimmy Kimmel in terms of talent, then I don't think
What started as just another routine night of comedy quickly turned into something no one in the studio saw coming. Within hours, clips were spreading everywhere. Reactions were pouring in from all directions, and it felt like the entire internet locked onto one unforgettable moment. But the real surprise was that the reaction didn't stay online. It grew into a much bigger conversation, involving power, ego, and public perception. The real question is, what exactly happened on that stage that triggered such a powerful chain reaction?
Be the reddest state in the union. This is like if Donald Trump threw me a surprise going away party, which he kind of did.
And it hasn't worked really for a long time. And I would say pretty much from the beginning, Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings.
It all began with a joke that landed a little too perfectly. The kind of line that does more than just make people laugh in the studio. It spreads instantly, showing up on every phone, every group chat, and every comment section as if it was meant to go viral. Late-night TV has always pushed boundaries, but this time, it felt like the boundaries were pushing back harder than usual.
We are in, for reasons known only to Donald Trump, hinges now on Iran reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which, for the record, was open before he started this. And now either is open or is not open. We don't know. We agreed to a ceasefire if and only if they reopen the Strait. It appeared to be open briefly, but then Iran closed it because Israel kept attacking Lebanon. And now, even though it is allegedly open, there are no ships.
Before we go further, make sure to subscribe, because there is a lot more ahead that you won't want to miss. At first, when Jimmy Kimmel stepped into his monologue, everything felt normal. A few punchlines, a few reactions, the usual mix of comedy and politics. But underneath the laughs, there was a sharper tone than usual. It wasn't just playful humor anymore. It felt like something was pressing into more sensitive territory. And somewhere beyond the stage, that pressure was already building.
To kill a 5,000-year-old civilization at 8 p.m. Eastern, but a little more than 1 hour before that deadline, Trump agreed to a 2-week ceasefire with Iran.
At the same time, on another late-night stage, Stephen Colbert was delivering his own style of commentary, turning political headlines into something that felt like news wrapped in heavy satire. None of this was planned, but the timing felt almost too perfect, as if everything was lining up in a way that made people quietly wonder what was really happening behind the scenes.
Imagine being this dumpy, blotchy glob of overcooked yams hobbling out of your backside. You smell like ointment and chicken and pee. You barely make it to the toilet. You sit down, you post that Bruce Springsteen looks bad, implying that Bruce had plastic surgery while every weird rich person downstairs at Mar-a-Lago is walking around with more plastic in them than a sea turtle's stomach. And this is how out of it he is. And then I guess Bruce wasn't enough, because a few hours later, he moved on to the Pope. That's right. Oh, you didn't hear?
Some nights, late-night television stops feeling like comedy altogether and starts to resemble live commentary on a political system that refuses to stay predictable.
The deal on social media, calling it a double-sided ceasefire. Okay, that is cool, but aren't all peace deals double-sided? I believe there's a word for a single-sided ceasefire, and it's
That was exactly the kind of energy in the air as Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert began breaking down a series of public moments that had already been gaining traction online. Each reaction pulled more attention, tightening the spotlight on a well-known political figure who always seems to remain at the center of controversy. What began as satire quickly sharpened, because the jokes were no longer about isolated moments, but but about a pattern that kept repeating itself.
Is weak on crime. And I should just stop right there because, seriously, when I read this, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, I had to take a break 6 words into it to laugh because it's so nuts. The whole post is just nuts. You know, the Pope's brother, we learned during the poping process, voted for Trump. So Trump wrote, I like his brother Louis much better than I like him because Louis is all MAGA. He gets it and Leo doesn't. Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be Pope and was only put there by the church because he was an American, and they thought that would be the best way to deal with President Donald J.
That is when the tone clearly shifted. What once felt like routine satire started to look like something much more reactive. The escalation wasn't just about what was said, but how quickly it was answered. Every segment seemed to spark a new wave of responses, as if the commentary itself had become part of the news. The reactions felt faster, sharper, and at times more personal than usual.
Over there in the monologue, I showed you that clip of Trump talking about how his AI Jesus post was really just him as a doctor. Well, that answer was even weirder than you think because it came in the middle of a stunt promoting his no tax on tips.
Stephen Colbert leaned into that confusion by pointing out how communication today often spreads before its meaning is fully understood. Jimmy Kimmel added to that by showing how quickly online culture turns uncertainty into full narratives. At that point, the reaction cycle itself became the story, shifting focus away from individual moments and toward how fast everything was being amplified.
He tops it. It's incredible. This weekend, he started with an old favorite, bashing a music superstar. He did it with Bad Bunny, did it with Taylor Swift, and now Bruce Springsteen seems to be poking around his ass. But anyway, there's a war going on, so naturally our commander-in-chief posted Bruce Springsteen prior to plastic surgery, a photograph that has clearly been doctored. Clearly to us, I should say, not clearly to him. He has no idea of what's real and what isn't real. But beyond that, beyond how scary it is that our president doesn't know the difference between real and fake, beyond how petty and childish this is, especially with everything that's going on, how oblivious is this man? Has he looked at himself in the mirror?
Kimmel highlighted how audiences now watch serious discussions the same way they watch viral clips, while Colbert pointed out how difficult it has become to separate real messaging from entertainment when both move at the same speed. As public appearances started circulating alongside commentary, the contrast between serious decisions and casual moments became impossible to ignore.
Also asked about the moment the astronauts lost contact with mission control.
I'd like to ask, what was your feeling when you had no communication, zero communication, all of a sudden it was cut off by, obviously, your very special location. What was your feeling when you had no communication?
Another wave of discussion followed, this time tied to more sensitive topics that added new layers to an already complex situation. Each new statement felt disconnected from the last, creating a timeline that seemed less like progress and more like overlapping reactions. Every attempt to explain things only seemed to create more interpretations instead of clarity.
He got us constipation. And only a handful of ships have been allowed to pass through the strait. Yesterday, Trump floated the idea of a grand reopening / joint business venture with the people he's bombing, where we would split the fees for the ships that went through. He wanted to partner with Iran, which makes no sense. None of it makes sense. Are you following any of this, Guillermo?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm lost.
But here's what Trump's going to do. No matter if the strait is open or not, he'll just say it's open. It's open. Same way he did with the riots in L.A. that never happened, or the imaginary water valve he opened to put out the fires. He'll put it on his vision board and will it to be true.
As the conversation continued, even the smallest public moments were pulled into the spotlight. Every gesture and interaction became part of a larger narrative, where audiences searched for meaning even when none was intended. By this point, it was no longer about one moment or one joke, but about a broader system where satire, politics, and online reactions had become fully connected.
At that moment when no one could ask you any questions, even the questions inside your own head, those terrible shrieking voices in your skull.
What made this phase stand out was not a single statement, but how quickly everything escalated. Late-night segments were no longer treated as simple comedy. Instead, they were replayed, analyzed, and reshaped as if they were part of a real-time political discussion, with every detail being examined closely.
So was back at it with the threats again on social media last night. He wrote, all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. If for any reason it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting starts. Now he's a sheriff from the Old West, the stagecoach leaving at dawn, and if not, the shooting starts. In the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward, actually, to its next conquest.
As attention grew, the central political figure responded in a way that pushed the conversation even further. Instead of stepping back, the reaction intensified, treating the commentary as a direct challenge. This only blurred the line between satire and politics even more, pulling past controversies back into the spotlight and connecting them to present reactions.
Taking a moment to break down what's going on here. First, you got Trump Christ and his disciples, young white man in hat, older white man in hat, who is apparently a proud graduate of
Colbert pointed out how modern communication rarely exists on its own anymore, with every statement tied to previous ones. Kimmel added that audiences now play a major role in shaping the narrative, amplifying certain interpretations until they become dominant. As a result, even attempts to clarify things often lead to more confusion rather than less.
Address the president directly on this. Mr. President, please, let me host this dinner. I've never asked you for anything, but can you imagine you, me, the commissioner of the FCC, all at a table together? Think of the ratings. I'll even throw in an award. You like award? I'll give you a brand new award, the Correspondee. The Dondi Correspondee. No one will ever get it besides you. Please, give the people what they want for once. This is our destiny together, you and me. Think about it. Let's make it the greatest, hottest, most spectacular dinner of any kind ever.
By the end, the line between cause and effect had almost disappeared. It became difficult to tell whether commentary was driving reactions or reactions were shaping the commentary. Both seemed to feed into each other, creating a cycle that kept growing without slowing down. And in that cycle, the real story was not about one moment, but about a system where entertainment and political reality are no longer separate, where every joke can turn into a headline and every headline can trigger the next wave of reaction.